problem with the political news business these days. Folks, thanks for joining me. I've been on the road a great deal lately, in India, in Austria. Then I had technical problems, so forgive me for not being very consistent here in the last couple of weeks. The time away has given me cause for some reflection. A couple of things have driven this. One, a recent Frank Rich column in New York Magazine where he talks about, everyone, myself included, liberals, Democrats, get so upset over the right-wing media, Bill O'Reilly, Fox News. And his point is, let's step back a minute. If you look at back in the days when the so-called mainstream media controlled things, from roughly 1952 until 1988, Republicans won 7 of 10 elections. Since the so-called rise of the conservative media establishment, roughly 1992, that's when Rush Limbaugh was really in his full powers. Since that time, Republicans have lost 5 of the 6 last popular votes in the presidential election. So you can make the case, and Frank Rich has, and I agree with it, that conservative media has actually severely harmed the Republican movement because it's caused all of their leading politicians, thinkers, to pander to a right-wing extremist base, and it's alienating them from the American public. So that's why a part of my New Year's resolution is, by the way, today is Chinese New Year's, and since my wife is Chinese, I'm celebrating both New Year's. Part of my New Year's resolution is I'm simply not going to watch, read, imbibe conservative media much these days. It's one thing if a Republican politician says something, but when some idiot or imbecile on talk radio or Fox News says something wildly outlandish, it's just not worth commenting on. It's not real. It doesn't matter. In fact, all it does is help Democrats. So those of you who've been watching me regularly for the last couple of years are going to see a difference in the selection of topics. I'm just not going to bother with conservative nonsense that's coming from conservative media. Now, the other big reflection I have is, I try to think, I'm a political junkie, I'm a talk show junkie, I am a political debate junkie. Why am I finding it so depressing to talk about politics these days? And I think as I step back and try to look at the macro level of what's going on, here's the situation, folks. We don't have communism to debate in this country anymore. We don't really have a huge debate over, like when Reagan took office, are taxes going to be at 70% for the wealthiest? I mean, taxes are low for the wealthy. And Obama may quibble over 2%, but for the most part, that issue, conservatives have won. Communism is over. Capitalism won this debate. So what are we left with in the Obama years? Here's Obama. Here's my perception of Obama, and I think any rational, intelligent person with an IQ of over 70 would agree with this. Obama is a mainstream, moderate, even moderate to conservative Democrat who is not particularly ideological, who goes out of his way to compromise and try to placate Republicans and conservatives. He's also someone squeaky clean and has put together an administration, for the most part, devoid of corruption and scandal. So here's the problem for the Republicans the last 5 years. You can't attack Obama for somehow being ideologically out of step with the country. You can't say, how dare this president propose and enact mainstream moderate policies that most Americans support. I mean, that would just sound kind of silly for Republicans to make that charge. They can't claim he's running around having sexual affairs. They can't claim that he and his top people have cashed in with all sorts of corruption, getting rich on this. So it's a tough spot for Republicans. I concede that. I have some sympathy for it. But what have they done for the last 5 years? Republicans have essentially said, we can't talk about real issues. We can't talk about ideological divisions. We can't talk about things like communism. We can't really fault Obama for doing anything extreme. We can't get people excited about corruption here, what do? I know. We'll just make up stuff. We'll just completely out of whole cloth make up stuff. I mean, that has been the Republican philosophy. That's been their strategy. That's been their tactic. And that's been the tactic of conservative media. So that's why we've seen again and again and again complete, utter nonsense about, oh, Obama doesn't have a birth certificate, and oh, Obama was born in Africa, and Obama is controlled by, third world colonialist views, and somehow Obama hates America. So he and Hillary hate Americans so much they went out of their way to get people killed in Benghazi. And that's why Obama ordered his IRS director to, go after conservative groups, even though no such thing happened. I mean, if you look at all the issues that have really dominated news coverage, any story that's been kind of a big story that's gotten attention for more than 1 week by the national media, especially the conservative media, you dig a little deeper, and every single time the issue has turned out to be 100% complete, utter chicken shit. Now, I'm sorry, I don't usually use language like that. I try to keep this a family-friendly commentary. But for the life of me, is that every single time there has been this, huge anger, screaming, gnashing of teeth, pulling of hair. Oh my God, Obama's done the worst thing in the history of the world. And it turns out there's nothing there. Get Obamacare. I mean, how many times do we have to listen to Republicans talk about this is like the worst thing in the history of the world? That's essentially what Ben Carson, Republican conservative from Fox News, said. This is socialism. And anybody who has access to a computer and isn't 100% brain dead or on the payroll of the Republican Party can quickly deduce this is Obama giving the Republicans what they've asked for 20 years. Now, you can fault Obama for being too accommodationist, for not listening to his Democratic base enough, but you can't accuse a Democratic president who gives Republicans everything they've asked for on health care and say that's an example of this person being too extreme left, when actually he's gone right. So Republicans have their hands tied because on the one hand, they can't just say, you know what, Obama's a great president, let's help him. Because that would sort of undercut the need for another party. They can't attack him for real issues, so they're just left with this constant barrage of complete chicken shit. And for me and a lot of commentators, it gets irritating to say, okay, they've done it again, folks. They say Obama is X. Well, no, Obama isn't X. In fact, X doesn't exist, and X is silly. He's really Y. And at some point, it's tiresome. It's tedious. It's frankly boring. And the only thing that is a little bit of a silver lining out of this is it's not helping Republicans. It's not actually helping them win votes or build approval in public opinion. Now, they have retained control of the House, and you look at some polls, they may actually take back the Senate. So they're able to stop Obama from doing a lot of things, but they're not actually going to be able to enact their foolishness. So we're essentially at a standstill in this democracy. This is an unusual situation. Reagan came to office. A lot of Democrats didn't agree with it, but they said, you know what? A lot of people agree with him. He had a mandate. He had a large vote. We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I have never once in the last 5 years seen a single solitary Republican give Obama the benefit of the doubt or do anything other than the most vicious, mean-spirited, and yes, chicken shit thing towards Obama. So it's hard for me, frankly, to even talk about Republicans without showing my complete, utter contempt. I mean, this is truly unprecedented in democracy. Now, Look, there's always been nastiness in politics. There's always been name calling. You can go back and look at the nasty things that Jefferson's opponents called him. But there is a qualitative difference now. There was always nastiness, and there was a debate about real issues, serious issues, conflict of visions. We don't have any of that now. It's 100% nasty, vile, just cooked up out of thin air chicken shit. So my New Year's resolution, I'm not listening to talk radio. Someone sends me an email that references what Glenn Beck says, or any of these far-right internet talk radio hosts say, or for that matter, pretty much anybody on Fox. I'm just hitting delete. And I think that may be the best solution for all of us.